Hello, is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? 'Cause I have become comfortably numb. Not us. No. Liberté? 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 Beautiful. You all are very beautiful for standing out here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all those, and I want to address what was said earlier about Lamont. I was there for a lot of the allegations. I don't need to say how false they are. It is self-evident. Please, just remind ourselves that we all have things that, if brought to the surface, would look weird in an angle. Please, this is not the time to be bitter amongst each other. Even being bitter amongst people who you do not even care to talk to. We have to unify. The people united can never be divided. The people united can never be divided. The people united can never be divided. That's the energy I would like to bring when we go out. I'm not going to be up here much longer. I just want to say that. I care about you all. And the children as well. There are many things was brought to my attention, but also I'd like to address, there's another gentleman coming up. Please give your warmest of welcome to my dear friend, Jason.
Thank you, pal. Thank you. Really quick plug. First of all, thanks for all being here. I really appreciate fighting for truth, health, medical freedoms, right? Jason Cosmic Truth Authority, YouTube deleted me a couple weeks ago. I had a speech in Hamilton where I'm with some amazing people. It's great to be in Toronto. Anyway, I'm on BitChute, but obviously we're watching and feeling an unprecedented assault on our civil liberties, our freedoms, our right to dissent is being obliterated, right? Our social dignity is being obliterated. But that's right, we're gonna win this battle, everybody. Because we are going to expose, right? The great Dr. Shiva, who had a bottoms-up revolutionary movement in Massachusetts, and he hasn't given up, right? He's exposing the corruption, the establishment. I talked about in Hamilton on his speech, okay? And let's talk about Bill Gates. Can we do that for a moment, some of the billionaires? Because I think it's important. Remember, he had a meeting with Justin Trudeau a little while ago, a few months ago, right? And Trudeau and Doug Ford, they came out and used the same line as Bill Gates, right? The only way to normalcy, you know what I'm about to say, right? Is through a vaccine. Exactly. It's so outrageous. And why is it vaccines? Why is the push? By the way, Bill Gates came on Fox News, I heard. Came on my phone, right? He's on CNN all the time. He gets all this gravitas. You know, you hear it talked about. Him and Melinda, they have no medical background whatsoever, right? They're not doctors, they're not virologists. The only reason he has any power is elements of the intelligence agencies that we gotta talk about. CIA and Big Pharma, right? Bill Gates and Tony Fauci and the Clinton Global Initiative, they are the architects, the propaganda machine behind this vaccine push, correct? Right? Once we bring down the old boys network, as Judy, the famous virologist, said, right? Then this corruption begins to end. Because Bill Gates, he paralyzed, let's get to the bottom of it, right? What he's done, some of his crimes against humanity briefly. The guy paralyzed, as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. tells you, with the Children's Health Defense Fund, right? He paralyzed roughly 470,000 kids in India with very dangerous DPT vaccines. And in Africa, this idiot has literally sterilized millions of African women. They're living in him and Melinda. They know what they're doing. Melinda Gates was celebrated on 60 Minutes, about 5 years ago, right? Like they're the saviors for our health, which is the opposite. And never compromise your health integrity, my friends. So Bill Gates comes on Fox News, right? And he called us anti-maskers, and what was the title? He said, what do they think, they're nudists or something? This is, my friends, they want you masked up, but we don't have to be. Your most basic personal freedom is what? Showing your face, right? And COVID-19. I'm not even going to go through it, okay? And we got experienced nurses. My sister's a beautiful experienced nurse. She's got to wear a mask for 9 out of 10 people that are dying, the older people, right? And they can't have a sincere communication, right? It's unbelievable. We're going to stop that. And I'll give you an example of how we changed their behavior. When I had my YouTube channel up, I had a YouTube channel up at Jason Cosmic Truth Authority. But in Hamilton, there was a woman named Kaylin. She was interviewed on Rebel News. Have you guys heard about her? And on my channel, we first had it discussed where I learned her son broke his tooth in school, was bleeding for 2 hours, and the school never called the mother. And she said on my channel, right, allowed her to use my platform to tell her powerful story, and they never called her. And now she knows but to her credit, she was dedicated. She took it upon herself to expose the school board and just try to get the truth, fight for our children, right? There's absolutely no reason why our children should be masked up. Do you agree or not? Exactly. And we're going to stop this. It's Bill Gates and his operatives. You know, it's all about transhumanism. He's been into eugenics. We know he's a con man. He's a prestigious, nefarious liar. Tony Fauci's the same thing. And you know what Dr. Shiva says I found so fascinating? Again, this guy's got a bottoms-up movement. He has a PhD from MIT, 4 degrees. Look him up if you don't know who he is. Dr. Shiva, right? He's exposed the gross election fraud that happened to Trump, saying that Trump should have known about the software. But Dr. Shiva says, you know, about the vaccines, everybody, real quick. The reason why they're focused on vaccines, there's numerous reasons, but the main reason, Big Pharma, he learned, have been losing money. That's right. Part of their industry's been burning down since the 1980s because it takes a lot to get a drug in the market, right? Dr. Shiva and other people have talked about it, right? You got 15, 20 years patent life. You start in vitro. You raise money. And then you got liability at the back end, right? You got advertising costs, right? Well, guess what? And safety testing, quality control. Do we have that when it comes to vaccines? No, right? As Robert F. Kennedy Jr. so clearly shows you, and other people, there's no liability. We know they indemnify the vaccine manufacturers from any lawsuit or liability, particularly the COVID-19 vaccine, right? And it's not just the COVID-19 vaccine. Remember? Robert and his doctors and his amazing staff show you. They got 278 vaccines carved out that they want to release to the public. As Dr. Shiva says, they want it to be SOP, standard operating procedure to protect you from infectious disease. But we know it's not going to do it. And you don't have to be an anti-vaxxer. We're anti-neurotoxin, most of us, are we not? Or all of us? Right? And they layer them with neurotoxins. I'll give you an example real quick, if I may. Bill Gates in Africa. He was giving up to 50 inoculations, immunizations to those children, where the polio's coming out of their fecal matter, and now he's created a polio epidemic. Him and Melinda Gates, Robert and his doctors and other people around the world know it, right? In countries they haven't seen in decades, Africa, India, the Philippines, Afghanistan, and the World Health Organization, the WHO, let's put them on notice for a moment. But to their credit, they admitted 73% of the polio on Earth today is vaccinated strain polio. That means you got it from somebody that's vaccinated. That's Bill Gates' vaccine, everybody, right? And the last thing, just real quick, this is important. Robert talks about this so well. These are called captive agencies, right? The WHO. They get half their money from Big Pharma. They get 10% from guess who? Who is it? Bill Gates. And they will bend over backwards to get that 10%. The CDC. My sister is experienced nurse. Nurses know. They're notoriously corrupt, unfortunately, but we can change that. These are people we did not elect, right? The CDC spends 45% of the budget on vaccines. The FDA gets half their money from Big Pharma, so they're controlled by the industries that they're supposed to regulate, right?
Regulatory capture.
Exactly. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talks about it so well. And so that's why, as Dr. Shiva says and Robert knows, we're not getting good science, and I agree with him, do you? We're not getting good policy, and we're not getting good regulations. And you know, Dr. Shiva also said something I think that's so profound. He said, we're watching fake science and fake news, and they merge like this, right? But we know the real science, and we know Tony Fauci. I mean, we could talk for hours on this guy, the conniving, sniveling weasel. He's on the leadership board for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right? Well, Dr. Shiva had over 300,000 people, I believe, petition in a couple days, months ago, to get him fired. Let's get him fired, my friends, even though he's in the United States. It affects us Canadians, right? And I compel you, everybody, let's get some people to invite Robert F. Kennedy Jr., get his buns down here to Toronto, to Canada, and Dr. Shiva, and fight for Canadians, all of us, right? And then we will end a lot of this corruption, and they're not going to get away with mandating vaccines. There's no way. And the reason why they want to do it, everybody, let's talk about the business model, since I haven't been taken down by my buddy here yet. But the business model, everybody, Dr. Shiva tells you, right? They make 17% compounded annual growth each year from vaccines. That's the only way they can survive, and that's for children, right? And we know not one vaccine should ever have been mandated for our precious kids. Am I right? Yeah. Is that a Nazi-esque model? Yeah. Exactly. But now, mothers and fathers, there's no more naive mothers and fathers out there. They know, nurses that are not brainwashed out there know. We know the dangers of vaccines. And certain vaccines for certain people, certain times can work on occasion. This is called personalized precise medicine that Dr. Shiva is an authority on, and it's known. So anyway, everybody, Bill Gates, Tony Fauci, the Clinton Global Initiative, the operatives behind the scenes, Big Pharma, they want to mandate vaccines for adults. But the great news is, they're not going to pull it off in Canada or anywhere, are they? Right? And by the way, in Africa, everybody, they are treating, and in India, Afghanistan, the Philippines, and these poor countries, keep in mind what Bill Gates has done and Tony Fauci. They are literally, as Susan said in an Italian parliament a couple months ago, they're treating them like guinea pigs and slaves. And in Canada, again, Bill Gates, Justin Trudeau, the puppet, Doug Ford, who called us anti-maskers. Are you kidding me? How can you do that? We're going to bring them down. I got to go. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. I appreciate it. I really do. We're in this together. Let's multiply the fires of resistance so they can't suppress all of us, my friends. That's what it comes down to. We're going to win this battle.
Thank you so much.
Great job, brother.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Jason. Here's your hat, Jason.